Welcome into the Cougar Tailgate, where BYU fandom lives. Here's your host, Lauren McLean.
What's up, everyone? It's good to be back with you. There were some heartbreaking losses this past week for the men's and women's basketball teams, but as Juddy said this week, hopefully it makes them hungry to go out and dominate in the NCAA tournament, which I can't wait to watch. And Selection Sunday is tomorrow, and we found out where women's hoops will land and who will be the first team to catch their wrath. And you know what makes everything better? Football. Later in the show, Houston Heimuli joins me to discuss spring ball, adjusting to Provo, and what his favorite thing about BYU is so far. But first, here with me now is a man who's a shepherd, but he ain't got no sheep. Jason Shepard. What's up, my friend? How many jokes have you gotten in your life about herding sheep with the last
honestly,
name
not
Shepard?
as many as you would think. You would think there would be a lot, but honestly, not very many.
Well, I'm disappointed in your childhood. Whoever your friends were, they really missed out on
You're
an
disappointed that I wasn't bullied and picked on?
No. And I feel like you can make some fun jokes without it being bullying. You know what I mean?
Sure.
I have really small thumbs, and that was like the topic of conversation for my friends all growing up. Yeah.
Wait,
so I'm just saying.
Okay, do you still have small thumbs? Like, are your thumbs considered? Because I've never noticed that in all the time I've known you.
Okay, you know Megan Fox's thumbs?
No.
Have you heard it? Have you never seen her thumbs? I
know Megan
Fox's
Fox. I don't know anything about her thumbs.
Well, go ahead and do a little Google search.
Okay.
And Megan Fox's thumbs, and you will see what mine look like. Anyway, my friends would dedicate songs to them growing up. That's how nice they were, making fun of my thumbs. Yeah, there you go.
Kids are cruel. Let's be honest. They're cruel.
They are cruel. I try to just let it roll off my shoulder, you know. All right, Shep, we've seen some incredible athletic performances from men's and women's basketball this year, even though their tournament runs didn't end the way they wanted them to. But we get to see these athletes perform on the court or field, so you kind of get an idea in your head of what they're like outside of sports. And you've had the opportunity to get to know a lot of these athletes, and I have as well. And most likely, if you don't know them, I think we're pretty off in our assumptions of who you think these athletes actually are. And that being said, Shep, if you got to spend one day with one current BYU athlete, who's it going to be? You get to spend the whole day with this person. Who would it be?
Oh, that is such a good question. There's so many people that I would want to just kind of hang out with. So are we talking only players?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, well, I mean, you could say coaches. I guess, go ahead.
Because, like, Mark Pope would be one that I would want to hang out with just to see what Mark Pope is like all day long. I think that would be fascinating. But in terms of players, that is such a good question. I think I would probably want to hang out with Jaron Hall, honestly. Now, here's the funny thing. I've actually hung out with Jaron Hall, like when he was on the baseball team. But, like, in terms of all day long, now that he's in the position that he is as BYU starting quarterback, I would love to just be around him, like a day in the life of what it is to be BYU starting quarterback. I think that would be fascinating.
Be awesome. Jaron Hall's a really good one. I like that a lot. I picked Michaela Coulihan, and I know she has moved on to bigger and better things, but it was just this past season that she was a BYU athlete. I pick her because she is, so I have gotten to know her pretty well. She is really funny. She's like a super funny girl. She's chill and laid back. She's really cool. And also, Shep, she's married to Jackson Clough, former BYU baseball player. And they are a fantastic couple.
Quite a power couple, and now both professional athletes.
I know.
How crazy is that? Jackson's in the minors in Major League Baseball. I think once it all is said and done, I think he's probably going to start in Double-A for the Washington Nationals. And obviously, Michaela is with the Orlando Pride in the NWSL. That is quite the pair to be both professional athletes.
Wouldn't that be so fun to double with them? That's what I keep thinking about. And they really are both so funny. Michaela told me that they compete in everything. They play golf, they play ping pong, I just think, because my husband and I are also competitive, I just think it'd be really fun to spend the day with them. And yes, kind of like you said with Jaron Hall, a day in the life of how the two of them make it work as professional athletes. Wouldn't that be so interesting?
That would be pretty cool. Especially because you're talking about a day in the life, speaking of Jackson and Michaela, professional athletes apart how do you make that work? And because they're recently married, they've only been married for a couple of months at most. So that would be fun. We're lucky to have not just the type of athletes that we have in terms of like on the field or the court, but in terms of the type of people that we get to cover. There's some really, really cool people, interesting, fun people to be around. We're really lucky to have the athletes around us that we do.
Absolutely. And you just gave me a great segment idea of having Jackson and Michaela come on together and talking about what a day in the life is like for them. I'm going to make that happen. All right, so we talked about which BYU athlete we'd hang out with, but if you could pick any athlete from any time to spend an entire day with, who would it be?
Oh, there's no question about it. It's Michael Jordan.
Really?
Hands down.
Because even after seeing the dance, seeing the documentary.
I lived through the 97-98 seasons as a Jazz fan. The guy ripped my heart out. He's still my favorite basketball player of all time. Mm-hmm. He's still my favorite athlete of all time. So Michael Jordan, despite the fact that he crushed my hopes as a Jazz fan twice, he's still the greatest. He is the GOAT. To me, there is no debate between he and LeBron. LeBron is a far second behind Michael Jordan in my mind, but he's the guy I'd want to. I thought you were going to say like today, but when you opened it up to all time, immediately Michael Jordan. No question about it.
Well, see, and I like your answer, and I agree that would be so fascinating. After watching the documentary, I don't know if I'd pick him. Like he's kind of an interesting duck, which most people are, right? Most people have their quirks and whatever. But
you're just talking about his competitiveness.
Yeah, I don't know.
He probably wouldn't be a fun guy to hang around because he would constantly want to beat you at everything.
I actually, you know what?
You reach for the salt faster. You think you're faster than me? Okay, all right, I get it.
You, me, competition now. Staring contest now. Yeah, he was very transparent in his documentary, and that would be the fascinating part, to see if he would just like open up and come, tell you all these stories that maybe weren't on that documentary. That would be really cool because everyone wants to hang out with Michael Jordan. So he's probably hung out with almost every celebrity from the 90s that you can think of. Actually, and now too,
sure.
From this day and age.
So how are you answering that question?
I'm answering this one, and don't judge me.
When somebody prefaces "Don't judge me," immediately we're going to judge. Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson is your answer.
Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson and WWE. Come on, it's a sport.
He would be a fun hangout.
Would
guy.
He not be?
Yeah, he'd be
best?
great.
I kept mulling over some possibilities. I mean, Babe Ruth, right? Babe Ruth. But then he strikes me as a guy that would not be a good time. I could be completely wrong.
that may get a little that would get a little sketchy.
Well, listen, The Rock, he's funny. He seems like a great guy, adventurous. I saw on Instagram his wife, he pitched her a ball and she had like this incredible swing. I was so impressed. So I think his wife seems like she'd be cool to hang out with. He'd have some great stories. He's humble. And it's The Rock. Shep, it's The Rock.
It's The Rock.
Wouldn't he be so much fun to hang out with?
He would be. That's good. Look, now, this is going to sound weird because we were talking about two guys that are just, you're talking like all times here, but for whatever reason, while you were talking, one of the guys that came to mind for just how good of a hang he would be, Travis Pastrana. You know who I'm talking about?
Travis Pastrana?
Do you know who I'm talking about? Like X Games and
yes, I know who he is.
Yeah, like every time I watch that guy, he seems like he would be super easy to hang out with, would have a ton of fun stories. Like that would be a guy that and honestly, like he's here in Utah all the time. Mm-hmm. So like it's probably something that we could actually make happen if we really put our minds to it.
Make that happen, Shep, and do a documentary on it.
I'm not comparing Travis Pastrana to The Rock and Michael Jordan, but for whatever reason, he, in terms of like a guy that would just be a fun guy to hang out with, that's somebody that came to my mind.
Okay, I like it.
Good.
Really, you could go anywhere with this. There really are so many. That'd be incredible. But those were the ones that stuck out to us. Here's some things that you guys said. Sky J Street said Tiger Woods because he's Tiger Woods. Right. I mean, Tiger Woods could go one way or the other, Shep. He could be extremely boring. I could
He's
see him
not
being kind of a
very
boring
like
guy.
he doesn't have a
No, he's
great
not
personality.
charismatic.
Yeah, he's not charismatic. So to me, that would not be one. But I'm also not a Tiger guy, so
Yeah.
that probably would be the biggest reason why I wouldn't come up with his name.
Well, almost for psychological reasons, I think it'd be really fascinating to hang out
Probably.
with Tiger Woods. Just if we were allowed to ask questions, which you know what, we probably wouldn't be. All right, at Jimmy Flinders 89 said Secretariat because dang it would be fun to ride that horse.
So he
that
wants
would
to
be
do
my
more than
choice.
just hang out with Secretariat. He wants to ride
He
Secretariat.
wants to ride Secretariat. He went above and beyond. So that was a great one. I'm surprised none of these BYU fans said Lavelle Edwards or Kalani Sitake of someone they would want to hang out with. All right, a few other responses were at Kent in Utah said, Socrates, I understand he was a good wrestler, but only if he brings his pal Plato. Would love to know just what they were thinking. Kent, that was a great answer. Andrew Lane said, deceased would have to be Jackie Robinson or Lou Gehrig. Alive would have to be Sir Charles Barkley. Never a dull moment. Oh my gosh, it would be really adventurous to hang out with Charles Barkley for a day. At Low Ute Fan, thank you to all the Utes tweeting in. I love it. Dale Murphy, very classy, and I would love to pick his brain about baseball. Jim Kephart said, Ty Detmer, I've always admired him, and as a Texan, he probably does some great barbecue. Heck yeah, he does. You know what I randomly thought about today, Shep? I wonder, this is so random, but I wonder if coaches parent the way they coach. Like, I feel like I know you pretty well,
Mhm.
and I haven't seen you around your kids a ton, but I can guess the type of dad you probably are, which is a great one.
Sure.
I bet you are such a fantastic dad. I think about Lavelle Edwards and his stoic look on the sideline. You think about Kalani dancing when the team does something well.
Right.
Do you think these coaches parent how they coach?
I would think
Like,
so.
think of
Because,
Mark Pope, too.
well,
Like, all
honestly,
the energy he comes across with. Yeah.
aren't they're essentially parenting the team, right?
Right.
They're kind of the dad of the team, if you think about it. That's kind of what their job is. I've got to assume it's got to be fairly similar. I just can't imagine that you're complete opposite doing one thing and not the other. Like you're going to be you regardless. So yeah, I would think you're probably getting a similar guy in both scenarios.
It's kind of interesting to think about. It really is. And now I really want to do an interview with one of Kalani's kids to see what he is like as a dad. But actually we have seen I think he did a TikTok with his daughter where he was
did.
dancing with
Yeah.
her. So he probably really is very similar to how he coaches. I love that thought. I don't know why. Mark Durant, and not the one you're thinking of, at the Durant said, I would spend a day with at Durant Mark. I share his name and live in Utah County. I disappoint people often when they meet me in person. Mark Durant, the basketball player for BYU, is a wonderful human being, and that is hilarious. They share the same name. And then Mark Durant responded with that gif of the two Spider-Mans pointing at each other. Mark Durant's a great follow, you guys. If you don't follow him, that would be something you need to do. At S. Dottel said, Karl Malone or John Stockton or both. I grew up watching them, and they are one of the biggest reasons I love basketball so much. Okay, so maybe Michael Jordan. Haha. There are so many that I can't pick. Stephanie, I'm right there with you, my friend. All right, you guys, thank you so much for all your responses and for tweeting in. So there's a lot of drama happening in the MLB right now, Shep, and I'm sure you have your thoughts on that.
Oh, yes.
But luckily, BYU baseball is playing and doing very well so far this season. So based on what you've seen from them so far, you've spent a lot of time with them. How is baseball going to fare against number 6 Oklahoma State tonight?
Well, I mean, this is a team in Oklahoma State that coming into this series actually was swept by another West Coast Conference team in Gonzaga, which was a bit surprising. That also speaks to how good Gonzaga is in the WCC in terms of baseball this season.
I'm sick of hearing about Gonzaga.
You don't even need to remind me. I went on a tirade this week on BYU Sports Nation about how I'm so tired of BYU fans being like, yeah, but I can still root for Gonzaga. I'm like, no, I can't. So I'm so tired of that attitude because I'm sick of Gonzaga winning everything. But look, BYU baseball, Coach Littlewood going into this season has said that this is one of the best teams he's ever had. And from a pitching standpoint, it's one of the best staffs he's ever had. Maybe the best he's ever had, top to bottom. That's going to go a long way when you're facing these teams from P5 conferences, which obviously BYU is going to be a part of in this conference with Oklahoma State, which is why this series is cool, because it's a little bit of a preview of things to come when the two are conference opponents. Obviously originally the series was supposed to be in Provo, but because of the weather this week, it was moved to Dallas. But, I like BYU's chances against anybody they're going to face this year. From what I've seen to begin the season, this team is good. And this team can win in a couple of different ways. And when you have options like that, whether it's options in the bullpen, you can kind of match up to whatever type of hitter you're facing, or you can mix up your lineup. You can have guys, maybe one day the guy hits 7th in the order. The next time he's batting cleanup. You've got a lot of different guys that you can put into the lineup. I think that bodes well for this team long term. So I have very high hopes for what this baseball team can do this year.
Well, we need this weather to clear up, number one, so we can go out and watch them. That's one of my favorite things to do in the spring is watch BYU baseball. So I'm so excited they're having a great season. And Shep, you are fantastic for coming on with me today, my friend.
It is always a pleasure. Thank you once again for having me.
It truly is. All right, coming up, he came to Provo in hopes to carry on the Heimuli family legacy at BYU, but he's doing it with his own style. Houston Heimuli is next on Cougar Tailgate. Welcome back to Cougar Tailgate. I'm Lauren McLean. Listen, we can never get enough football, and luckily for us, even in the off-season, there's stuff to talk about. Spring ball is in full swing with a lot of newcomers working hard to make a name for themselves, but there's one newcomer's name that all of us already know. Joining me now is grad transfer fullback Houston Heimuli. Thanks for coming on with me, Houston.
Thanks for having me. Glad to be here.
Hey, so I love your name. My husband's from Houston. Do you know where your parents came up with the name Houston?
So interestingly enough, I was in my mom's womb, and my oldest brother's name's Hema. Ironically, his name's Hema Jr. And they were watching Apollo 11. And during that movie, they said, Houston, we have a problem. So my brother turned to my mom and said, Houston, that'd be a great name. Boom, there I am.
Wow. I love that. I really love that. That's a good story. Well, we've been so excited to have you at BYU, and you've already won over so many fans' hearts. What have these last couple of months been like for you, getting coached by Kalani, being close to your brother that you mentioned, and playing at your dad's alma mater?
I think the best way I can describe it is home. It's weird. Like, I never thought that, coming back to Utah and here would feel just so comfortable. And Kalani, the coaching staff, the other players, everyone's just been so welcoming. And again, knowing that, when my dad came from here and, what he did here makes it more meaningful.
That's so awesome. And have you had any good fan moments that stand out to you where a fan has recognized you here in Provo?
Actually, it's interesting. It's just here and there. And, my dad's an old person. So, older people will come up to me like, oh, I loved your dad. And I'm like, oh, you know what? Me too. I'm joking. But, yeah, no, people just randomly come up and they're like, hey, I knew your pops back then, or hey, I used to watch you dad all the time. Glad you're here. And you know what? Every time that happens, it just makes me, a little more grateful, little blessings, God gives me every day. And so that's cool.
I don't know if your dad would appreciate you calling him old, Houston.
I mean, he's got to get used to it.
He is old. It's okay.
Time waits for no one.
It's so true. Unfortunately, that's true. All right. So you mentioned it feels like home here. What has been your favorite thing about BYU so far?
Ooh, there are so many things. Honestly, just the team. I love the team. People just so welcoming. People are so awesome. But they're also not here to when a new guy comes into town, then we're gonna make him learn from the ground up. Like Mason
Right.
Wake has taken me under his wing, and he's been coaching me in a lot of things. A lot of guys on the team, Isaac Rex, Lane Lunt, Down Holger, like all these tight ends and fullbacks and Jaron Hall, they're all just so welcoming and trying to catch me up to speed with the offense.
So Provo is a slightly different place than Palo Alto, wouldn't you agree?
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Sure,
yeah,
yeah.
you've spent the last 4 or so years there. How are you adjusting to life in Provo? Because Provo can be an interesting place. How are you adjusting here?
I think I'm adjusting well. The one thing still not used to, I'm from Bountiful originally, so I thought I'd be used to the cold. But my goodness, I just wake up in the morning, get slapped in the face by ice, and then, it's an interesting predicament that I haven't had to face for the last 5 years.
Yeah, definitely.
But
Yeah,
then the church environment is awesome.
that's cool. Hey, so do you have any go-tos yet? Do you have any restaurants or places you like to hang out?
I'm not gonna lie to you. I'm a big In-N-Out guy. Don't tell my coaches. Oh wait, this is recorded. Strict. I love Mo Betta's. There we go. Mo Betta's is, oh my gosh, love that place.
We won't tell anyone that you go in and out. I promise. We promise we won't tell. So, yeah, go ahead.
Saying if you do, just tell them it's a protein style. That's a little healthier.
Okay, you got it. All right, so you talked about some of the guys on the team. What have been your impressions of the team these first couple of weeks of spring ball, just in terms of the talent that you've seen?
Aggressive. That's the biggest thing I've seen. These guys are physical. I love it. Dudes are not afraid to get after it, and people they're fast to their attack points, and it's one of the coolest things I've seen. And everyone plays hard, and everyone treats the field is for football. We get after each other. People are physical, aggressive, and then afterwards we're all cool. And I love it. Big work mentality here.
And you mentioned Mason Wake, who's been awesome for BYU, and you've blocked a lot for Stanford in the last few years. What has been your primary role in spring ball so far?
I think my spring ball, they've been kind of conducive to that, where I've kind of taken that role of lead blocker, coming around, hitting edges. But then, kind of come out to the flat sometimes, catching a ball here and there. So I'd say primary blocker right now.
Okay. So having played for Stanford the last few years and now you're ingrained in spring ball at BYU, how this might be a tough question, but so far, how would you compare those two teams?
I think what's cool about BYU is their offense is very quick. As in, they hurry up. We're trying to get as many plays in as we can. While Stanford is very methodical. It was a very slowed down game. As in, we're going to command this tempo. And we're going to eat up clock. Well, here it's we're going to score. We're going to ratchet some points on you guys, and we're going to make sure that we're here to play.
No, you're good. You're good. Hey, I know there's a lot going on at practice right now. So I know one of the main reasons you liked or wanted to come to BYU, your dad, but as well, Kalani Sitake being the head coach. What's it been like being able to play for him in these last few months?
It's been well, first off, honor. We can always say that. Kalani has been such a big role in the Polynesian community, such a figurehead. And having him as my coach personally now, it just means the world to me, especially his connection with my dad, and it's really comforting. And I feel like he has our backs if we need them, and it's been awesome.
I'm sure that's part of the reason it feels like home for you. So for BYU is known for some quarterback controversies, Houston. I don't know if you've known that, but there's usually always one. And it seems like there isn't one this year, which is incredible. What have been your impressions of Jaron Hall so far?
Oh, Jaron is, first off, a fantastic leader. Off the field, my guy commands respect. And not in the pushy way. He's a really chill guy.
Yeah.
But that, when he says something, it means something. And I got that impression first off when I first came here. So I follow his lead. And then on the field, same thing. My guy commands his presence and lets everyone know that, we're here to play. And he's willing to take he's willing to do whatever it takes for us to win. Just an awesome guy.
I know you've been playing against Chris Brooks for a long time. What's it like being on the same team with him now?
Man, that's crazy. I watch that guy play us every year, and he's a fantastic running back. And it's pretty cool because we're actually roommates. You know, we're in the same house. We literally live right next. My room is right next to his, so we see each other a lot. And funny thing is, you know, a little banter here and there. Just let him know that where I came from was a little better than where he came from, but it's just fun, all fun, and it's cool to see his mentality and what he brings here too.
So who got the best of who while playing at Cal and Stanford? Who would you say? What would you say?
I mean, shoot. Personally, I got the best of him. He might say different, but you know, just ignore that part. Just I'll tell you what happened. You know, we won more.
There you go. And that's what matters, right?
That's what matters.
All right, Houston, my last question for you is what are you hoping to contribute to BYU in this final season of your career?
And I've talked about this before with other people and teammates where, you know, BYU doesn't need another aspect of physicality, but adding on to it, and then my experience, I feel like with Power 5 teams is what I hope to bring. I hope to continue, you know, with that physical mentality of get after people with the ball, and then for myself, you know, to be an anchor for players. You know, I want to be a player that other guys can depend on. I want to be a player that, you know, if my number is called for something else or some other situation, that they know they can rely on me on and off the field. So that's my goal.
I love it. I love it so much, and I can't wait to watch you play. Grad transfer fullback Houston Heimuli, thank you so much for taking the time with me today.
Of course. Thank you for having me. It's been awesome.
You bet. Nice to meet you, and good luck moving forward.
Thank you. Good to meet y'all. Everyone, take it easy now.
And that does it for us today. Thanks again to Houston Heimuli and Jason Shepard for coming on the show with me. You can join the Cougar Tailgate virtually, of course, every Saturday at noon Mountain Time, or download, rate, and review our podcast on Apple, TuneIn, Stitcher, Spotify, or on BYURadio.org. This is Cougar Tailgate.